Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, so give me a moment. Yay! Okay,
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very good. Thank you so much for testing it, y'all. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me see here. All right, guys. So, welcome everyone welcome back to Real Talk Recovery. I want to make sure that everything is on. Awesome. All right. Welcome to Real Talk Recovery, where we have lived experience in real conversations. Guys, today is going to be a very touchy subject. However, it's going to be well worth it. Um, one of the main things that we're going to really talk about today, we're going to break it down as far as the five topics, as well as the different aspects of having a dual diagnosis. I'm honored to welcome a powerful and purpose-driven voice in the recovery world, Tori Smith. Big steppers, give it up to Tori Smith. She is a cultural specific peer wellness trainer, a true leader in Oregon's recovery world, and someone who brings both wisdom and soul into every space that she walks into. She's lived it, she's led through it, and she continued to pour back into the community in ways that are real, raw, and rooted. It's an honor to have her here today to speak on dual diagnosis, the weight of the double stigma, and the healing power of lived experience. Everyone, welcome Tori. Hi, Tori.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do on a daily basis and why?
Okay. So as of right now, I'm just a culturally specific facilitator and trainer for anyone that wants to get the credentials as a peer wellness specialist. Also, my background is in counseling. I'm also a QMHAP, CADC too. Um, And depends on the state you want to say which one you want to be certified in Louisiana, Georgia, Oregon. Louisiana, I'm a licensed addiction counselor. So yeah, it just depends. And I'm also a wellness coach. So
Yes,
all
absolutely.
about the wellness.
Yes, and that's one thing I really admire about you. My very first time meeting you was at the Peer Apocalypse.
Yes.
I've heard a lot about you. I just haven't seen you in the flesh. And I was planning, like you was one of those people that I would like to really speak to at the time. I didn't have a podcast show. I was just in the midst of getting trained and certified. And when
Mhm.
I seen you at the Peer Apocalypse, you were actually facilitating a workshop. Can you tell us about the workshop that you represented at the Peer Apocalypse event?
Absolutely. So the workshop that I did at the Peer Populace was Own Your Worth was the title or the theme of it. And it was about us being able to say, hey, I own this. I know this about myself. I'm going to keep it real with you. You know, a lot of times you say, hey, you are worthy, right? You hear that term a lot. Nobody never tells us to take ownership of it, though, and to be able to hold on to it. We always say, speak your affirmations. Okay, I speak them, but nobody's gravitating to them. And I don't want to use the word nobody because there are those that do, but however, the majority, right?
Exactly.
So I had to come from a different angle to remind people to say, hey, hold on to this. That's how important it is.
Definitely. And I hear you say that. Hold on to your worth. Hold on to yourself. You know,
Mhm.
your heart, your mind, and your soul is the very thing that makes us all unique. And holding on to that, that's how you build that purpose. And I feel like that's what drove me to really introduce you to my podcast show. Because I don't tell a lot of people about my podcast show because some things is like left to be treasured for yourself. But I said, you know what, this year I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to have more guest, top notch guest speakers, and
Right.
you're one of them. So
Well,
welcome.
thank you. I
So
am
how long
honored.
have you been working in the, do you, what do you know about dual diagnosis?
Ooh, what I don't know about dual diagnosis. The thing is with dual diagnosis, for those that don't know what it is the collaboration of more than one um, diagnosis together. So most people know, hey, I have an addiction and I have mental health, right? So whichever two go together, you want to put it together. And it depends on what your addiction is, it depends on what your diagnosis for mental health is. It's just a collaboration of both of those put together. So,
Exactly.
so when you look at dual diagnosis and the importance of it, it's the oh my goodness, how do I express it? It is super important.
And
The
we're going to unpack that for sure.
yeah,
We're going to take the time to unpack it and we're going to show how to do it in a most compassionate way today, guys. And we're going to be raw and straightforward. Okay. So let me go over the topics real quick. But before I go over the topics, let me go ahead and pay tribute to the people that is sponsoring us. I want to let you know that there's only a few that really, really looked out for Real Talk Recovery, and that is Recovery Fresh, which is a clothing line. Why not recover in style? This is a clothing line that is super duper awesome with all the different type of trendy sayings that is really motivational if you're in the recovery community and trying to get yourself on the right path mentally or even on a sobriety level. All right, guys, if you want to learn more and get some coupons, discounts, promo codes, and so forth, all you have to do is click on my link in my bio or message me, email me, and I'll give you that information. Thank you so much. So let's get back to the topics here. Okay, so the first topics, I'm going to go down, there's 5 of them. Number 1, what dual diagnosis really means. Number 2, the shame of double stigma. Number 3, why both issues must be treated together. Number 4, lived experience as leadership. And number 5, tools and hope for healing. And Tori, we're in luck because my big steppers get all this information a week before I even submit for the episode. So they gave us questions. All right. So
okay,
we're going to work
okay.
through this. So on the first topic, the very first question that asked is what is it important for people to understand that dual diagnosis is more common than most think?
Or why is it important? Or what
Why
is
it
it?
is important for people to understand that dual diagnosis is more common than most think.
Wow.
Well, I know, but
You
it's
know
such
that
a simple
that's
question.
just it. You would think by now most people would understand it, right?
Exactly.
No, because you know everybody want to put everybody in one container. You want you're going to be in the addiction container or the mental health container, but technically both of them go to right hand in hand. So it is important to know that. It's important to know that you can't have one without the other, especially, okay, let me say this. You could have mental health without addiction, but you can't have an addiction without mental health, right?
Right.
Because usually by the time somebody turn or have an addiction or is dealing with a particular addiction, they done been through something and they're looking for something to just mask it. It could be drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, and the list could go on. Because
Yes.
I don't want to just focus in on drugs and alcohol. I want to focus in on
Right.
all of it.
All of it. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And
So
yeah. And I love what you're saying. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish. I heard something that had me fired. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just like, so yes, so the mental health aspect of it, yes, everybody that has mental health don't necessarily is what use drugs or have an addiction to anything else.
Yeah, and that's, I
Right?
love what you're saying because addiction is a broad spectrum. When you told me, like when I heard you say that you just don't want to focus only on the drugs itself of addiction. That right there
Hmm.
got me fired up because my addiction didn't start with drugs. It started with sex.
Okay,
It started
exactly.
with, it started with grief.
Yes,
Those two things took me into a different lane. And
yes,
so when we dig into that, and then with that grief, it came trauma.
yes,
And boom, you got a whole gumbo full of just straight up chaos, mentally,
yes,
emotionally, and physically, but on a sexual way too.
yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean?
yes.
So yeah, that's really breaking it down. How do we manage these two things? And I want to kind of go over the textbook or the Google definition of dual diagnosis for all of my big steppers out there. Y'all, the definition we see here that's certified, it says dual diagnosis refers to having both a mental health disorder and a substance use disorder.
Mhm.
Okay. It also known as a co-occurring disorder
Yeah.
or so forth, being treated or could possibly be treated by behavioral therapy, medication, support groups, and inpatient care. Tori, what do you think about that definition?
It's true. Um, so when we say dual diagnosis, the new common word is a whole, like you heard, or like you just read, co-occurring disorders. Um, that's the new term that's out, or it's been out for a few years now, but it's like removing the dual diagnosis as a term and putting co-occurring disorders because it goes in circles. One thing that I heard in that definition that really stood out to me is the meds and the treatment. The combination of those two, what a lot of people don't understand. If I'm on medication, right, I need to start talking to a therapist or a counselor. I need to go to treatment if that's what you need. The two definitely go together. If I'm just using medication to try, once again, you're masking a situation, right? I'm not going to say it's you're taking one over the other. No. But if I'm taking a medication and I'm in some type of therapy or treatment program,
Mhm.
it helps to streamline whatever that is going on with that individual. And for our community, for the African American community, we don't understand that part. We don't understand the importance of still continuing to get a therapist, right? I don't
Yes.
want to sit there and talk to nobody for what? They don't need to be all in my business. They don't need to know me like that. I'm nothing's wrong with me. The excuses, the justifications, on and on and on until you actually go into it. So, like, let me bring it back. So, like, for me, for example, mental health is a thing that I did not want to admit to.
Mm.
I didn't want to say, oh, I suffer with depression or anxiety, right? Until I started going to therapy. When I started going to therapy and actually talking about some things that were within me that that I was masking,
Right.
and masking me going to work every day, taking care of my family and doing all the things because you don't want nobody to see the other part of you, right? That's when the therapy and the medication started really working together.
Right.
And that's when the healing started taking place.
Mm.
And see, when we go to therapy, we don't want to actually deal with those feelings that come up.
Absolutely not.
You don't feel good, right?
Yeah. Well,
But
that's
if
the
I
thing.
dealt with them, do I really,
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, do I really want to heal?
Right. That
Do
you
I
hit it
really
right on
want
the
to heal?
nose. You hit it
Yeah,
right on the nose. Yeah. And most of the time we don't even really know what we're feeling because remember, we can feel five different feelings or emotions at one time, especially when you're juggling new medications for no telling how many different type of diagnoses, because you
Mhm.
guys, big steppers, understand dual diagnosis does not mean you just got one diagnosis of mental health disorder and one substance use that you use only. No, you're working with a multitude of diagnoses. I mean, average American, it says, has a minimum of 3 mental health diagnoses, not to mention the substance, multiple
Mhm.
substance use that goes with that. And then guess what? If that's the case, how many more medications do we have to take to even maintain those things
Right.
to
And that's
bring
why
us
it's
back
so
to our normal?
important to, that's why it's so
Exactly.
important to read what each medication will make you do.
Yep.
We're not reading the warning signs and wondering why I'm over here and I need to be over here. Why I can't sleep at night. What's wrong with my nutrition? Like I'm eating.
Right.
Like read the warning, y'all, because a lot of that stuff don't go together, and a lot of it is not for us.
Right. It wasn't tested by us.
Mm, nope.
It was tested. Most animals and usually women of other ethnic groups were tested for most of majority of the medications
Mm-hmm.
that is in the system of America. So,
Mm-hmm. I had one doctor that I did work under, and she realized that. And she was a Caucasian doctor. However, but she realized that the medications that she was prescribing to one group wasn't working for the other group.
and one of those were probably the high blood pressure medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Was
That
like
was
went
one of
public
them.
everywhere. Yeah, and that made sense.
Right, right.
Wow, that's huge. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next topic, guys. Tori, are you feel comfortable about moving on to the next topic?
Let's go for it.
Awesome. Before we do, let's go ahead and show some respect to our favorite folks, y'all. We're gonna give it up for MacBo. MacBo, we love y'all. And if y'all don't know what MacBo is, go to macbo.org. MacBo stands for Mental Health and Addiction Certification Board of Oregon. Okay, this is where you go to get certified to be what we are: peers, facilitators, clinicians, you name it, qualified mental health associates. Okay. On this website, you can actually join a job bulletin. You can get all the information you need and educational resources to move forward in your career in social work or behavioral health. All right. Once again, that is MACBO, MHACBO.org. All right, guys, let's get back to it. Second topic. Let's see here. My big steppers ask for the second topic, the shame of double stigma. Have you ever felt like you had to hide one part of your struggle to get help for the other? Whoa,
Ooh, ooh.
that's pretty big.
I
Because I know
I
what you
can't
think,
speak on
Tori.
that, but I do know a lot of my clients had,
Right?
and there were things that we had to work on together. Like I don't want nobody to know that I'm smoking a little something something over here, but I'm going to work on the depression, just for an example, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Yep.
Yeah. So
Facts.
yeah, so the stigma is it's okay to do that, but don't tell nobody I'm in treatment or I'm going to see a counselor or I even have, a peer wellness specialist or peer support specialist or, you know, um working with me over here to help me just maintain my day-to-day life. But when I'm over here, I'm gonna still continue to smoke what I want to over here, even though the two not going together.
Exactly.
But I don't want my homeboys or homegirls or family could be the worst, to know what's going on with me and that I'm needing this extra help over here.
Right. Right.
And so to deal with it is breaking down those barriers and being okay with who you are and saying, you know what? This is what I'm going through. You have to get real with yourself.
Yeah.
I call it peeling back the onion because
There we go.
you can't work on everything at once. You have to take one layer at a time. And so it's working on whatever that situation may be to get to the core of the why.
Right.
So
Just like I
even
said
there,
earlier, the
mm-hmm,
grief. So if it started with grief as a kid,
mm-hmm,
then that's the core, really. But it
right,
would take a lot of peeling to get to that core
mm-hmm,
because we forget what it's really all about.
exactly, exactly. We don't want to admit to what it's about. We might know, we might, but we don't want to admit to it. And this is a stretch, have one person who truly knows what's going on with me. That's why I always ask people, who in your circle? Who is your support group? You don't need more than five, six is too many. I'm sorry.
Right. Big time.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we need to change in our communities or system to reduce that shame that people carry just as a, as a collective in an inclusive way for all cultures in America? What do you think it would be helpful for all of us to take away or reduce
The
that shame?
first thing that came to my mind when you said that was get deliverance from people. Stop thinking about what the next person's saying. Take you
Mm,
first.
yeah,
Put you first. So even as a community of people, we have to stop, wondering what the other person is thinking about me. No, if you know you need help, go get the help.
mm.
Because at the end of the day, they're gonna continue to do what they're doing and they're not thinking about you. Not like that.
Hello,
I mean,
for real.
personally, I have that one or two people in my corner, right? That's gonna call me out on my stuff. You need that individual in your life too.
Mhm.
Like we are not always, I don't care what profession you in, I don't care what level you at, you go through things. And you have things that you still need to work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the stigma, even as a professional, is like, do I want anybody to know that I deal with this, right?
Mhm.
In my current position, it gave me the opportunity to say, hey, this is okay. This is what's going on with me,
Right.
right? When in my other positions, I could not speak that out loud. It's
Yeah,
literally, I had to wear
yeah,
a mask.
the corporate world versus social work, behavioral health world is a totally different ball game. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree. Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Now we're on to topic 3. Thank you, Big Steppers. We got somebody in the chat right now that has a question. Yeah? Okay, not yet. No worries. Okay, moving forward. We're going to work with what we got here. Thank you, Big Steppers. I want to give a shout out to all the Big Steppers that actually gave these questions, came up with these questions. And it was so many, I could only pick half of what that was given. And I really appreciate y'all. Okay, the next one is why both issues must be treated together. So the question that was given was, what happens when someone only gets treated for addiction, but not mental health, or vice versa?
So when someone only gets treated for addiction and not the mental health, they're
Yes,
still dealing with the problem. They're still dealing with the core issue of what got them there in the first place.
right,
They haven't necessarily tapped on it because they're too scared to,
right,
right? Here, let me flip it back to you though. Some people may not know about the resources that can help them with that. All they know is I need to go to treatment and just work on the addiction part.
right. For whatever other reasons, because sometimes when we're focused on the addiction end of it, it's
Mhm.
really for something that we're lacking, which is in the external of like housing or
Right.
finances, income,
Right.
employment.
Because
And so we
I
think
got
that those
I got to
things will
survive this
cover
thing
that.
right now.
Right.
I'm in survival stage. Y'all can say what y'all want, but I'm surviving right now.
Hmm.
I'm trying to pay my house, my rent, whatever they cost me, whatever. I need to put food on the table for my kids.
Hmm.
I ain't trying, I just need to stop doing this substance or whatever it may be so I could function just a little bit better. I
There
don't
we
want
go.
to, the mental health piece of it has always been secondary when it comes to addiction. However, do I believe it needs to be primary? Yes. Why? Because I started dealing with these things. You still got the substance. But if I get help with the mental health, now I'm coming to a realization what's going on. Okay, now let's bring down the substance use.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, with everything that's going on into today's world.
I mean, I really believe, Tori, from my own experience, I had to work on my mental health first
Mm-hmm.
before I even thought about getting rid of all the other addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And when I actually started working on the mental health, yeah, I did see a difference. I didn't have the desire to use, or I didn't have the desire to participate in reckless behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. And that's
And,
why mental health is so important today. It's a buzzword today,
yeah.
right? And you do have more and more people that are going to get help from it,
Mhm.
afford it.
Yeah.
Uh, which I think is a good thing. It's not bad, but I still wish it wasn't so. The stigma, it's like, can we remove that altogether? And the only way to be removed, you have to come together as a community.
Right.
I can't
Absolutely.
just do it. You can't just do it. But with platforms like this, talking about it and continue to talk about it, it's helping to remove that stigma.
Yes. And speaking on that, because it's a broken system, there's a gap somewhere. And I
Mhm.
believe like peer support is building that bridge
Yes.
to fill in the gap. How can peer support help more with this part of the dual diagnosis, which not everybody is certified like us for mental health and addiction, which we should have a lot more peers diving into both.
Uh-huh.
But, what do you think we can do to bridge that gap more in this broken system?
Acceptance,
Okay.
right? Accepting because, and that's crazy. That's what I'm writing a paper on, is having, I want to say, the right supervisors for peers,
Mm, thank you.
right? Everybody can't supervise a peer. I'm sorry.
Mm,
When I first had peers underneath me, I was like, I need to go learn what this position is about.
mm,
And when I got the education on that part, because I get the education on addiction and mental health and all the things all day, the clinical aspects of it,
clinical.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, peer work is not clinical.
Come on.
It is
Come
not
on.
clinical. It has nothing to do with counseling. It has nothing to do with therapy, none of that. It's all about the lived experience itself. And a lot of times within it, in this world that we work in, the behavioral health field that we work in, it's still brand new.
Yeah.
See, when I was living down south, right, peer, you had a peer, but it wasn't like that person that just worked. It was a mentor that had lived experience.
Right.
And now that we have a name to it, it's like, okay, now we got certifications and all of the things, right? At that time, years ago, it was a gateway for those that wanted to get into this line of work or get into the clinical line of work as a counselor, an addiction counselor. So they started out as a peer worker,
Right.
and it opened a door for those who start working on their certifications and so forth. So in today, so bring it back to today, 2025, right? There are more peers out there. I think the doors are being opened more so now than it was in the past. but the community or in the field itself, those professionals in the field don't understand what peer workers are supposed to do. And
Mm,
we have to, and one, is be okay with educating yourself. No, okay. And the peer's going to have to educate the the clinical component. They're going to have to educate the therapists. They're going to have to educate the doctors, the nurses, etc.
yeah.
Because they're the ones out there on the ground.
Well, you know what? You just brought something to me. I heard you say we're the ones, as peers, is kind of bridging that gap by like giving them the lingo and stuff like that. This is why we got the fourth edition ASAM that just really came out, and it's just like pretty much everybody got certified for the fourth edition ASAM, and it's basically them shifting their approach with the clinical and how they're treating the client and how they're diagnosing, and it has something to do by with the way we're uh, what they're learning from peers. They're
Mm-hmm.
taking those things, those unknown I don't know skills that we have, and applying it in the clinical end. uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so you brought up that. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, that just came to me.
No, 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 go on. You're good. And also, too, what people don't realize, it's so important. This is how important peers are. It's a payable, I'm sorry, a billable category now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's literally like three different billing codes. You can use that.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome to my life. Right there.
Okay. It
Yeah.
wasn't like that back in the day, I'm telling you.
Really?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Then we have peer community centers now where people just go in and hang out and then get referred out to clinics. But it's
Absolutely,
not as
yes.
common. It's not as common as it was or is or as it should be. But I think by 2030, it's going to be everywhere.
Oh, yes. And that's a good thing. I could tell you down south, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it is here in Oregon. In Louisiana, absolutely not. But they're now becoming more educated on it.
Yeah.
Um, but they yet still behind where we are today with peer work.
Yeah.
They got the certification and all of that now that you could get, which I think is good. It's just understanding how to truly make it happen.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you on that. Big time. Wow. That's amazing. Wow. And shout out to Oregon Health Authority, guys. They've been doing their thing with all of us. There's a lot of great things you can learn on their website, Oregon.gov. Okay, go to Oregon.gov. You can learn a lot about everything from getting licensed to finding health care providers. You can even find birth, death, marriage, divorce records. Okay, flu vaccine finders. If you are looking for treatment, you can even find it there. But most definitely, you can also find a lot of Oregon State hospitals and OHA public records. Okay, so that's just a little bit of what we use this for. But I know, like people like us, me and Tori, we got licensed through the state of Oregon, which is Oregon Health Authority, guys. All right. So if you want to become a peer, if you are interested in becoming a qualified medical associate or mental health associate, you can do so by going to Oregon Health Authority. All right. So let's get back to it. I want to go ahead and get back into the next subject. We got like maybe 4 more minutes, guys, to be on Zoom. Me and Tori is going to move it over to Podbean. Tori, I'm going to invite you to speak on Podbean.
I
Do
have
you
it up.
see?
I
Do you
opened it.
see? Okay, awesome. And you go ahead and select if you can get on there real quick. and I would go ahead and accept you on here. Okay.
Oh, did I know?
All right. Awesome. Do I see you in here? I think I sent it to your email if I'm correct. Oh, there you go. Yay! Turn party here. Okay, so y'all, hey, if y'all want to learn more and see more, you gotta move over to Podbean Live, Real Talk Recovery. Me and Tori is out. We're gonna go ahead and post the video however she wants to, and we'll see y'all later on Zoom. Bye bye.